And today we will be having a conversation with Zukile Ntentema, who is a student, who is a former youth member in the Democratic Alliance, and has done a lot of things in his community to, uplift the community, to further artists in his area, musical artists. And I thought that it would be very amazing to have him on the show to talk about, his life. And I think from what I've seen, his life is an amazing example to many youth, And welcome, man.
Thanks, Michael. Azania.
Yes,
Pleasure,
sir.
man. It's a pleasure.
And man, I thought we can start off, we always want to learn about the foundations of someone, because the foundations of someone always show us how the person, deals with the real world when they get older, and the kind of impact that they want to have in the world. And so for my first question, I wanted you to kind of talk about your upbringing, the area that you stayed in when you grew up, your family, going into your teenage years, your primary school years. Could you just give us like a long, this is a podcast, we can talk as long as possible. That's a great thing about a podcast. So you can just give us that.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Cape Town. I was born in Khayelitsha and grew up in Nyanga, particularly in Crossroad. My primary school was Regina Cooley Primary School, a Catholic primary school in Athlone. So it was a diverse primary school. I think it helped me a lot in terms of what I'm doing currently right now, to work with different people who are coming from different backgrounds. So in terms of sports and other things that I played soccer a lot, and was into boxing. I was in amateur boxing, fought a couple of fights as an amateur boxing in different areas of Cape Town, Nyanga, Sightsee in particular. So, yeah.
So, can you tell me a bit about your family? Because actually, I've known you for so long, but I don't actually know about how you grew up in that. Did you? A lot of us don't have our fathers present in our lives. I just wanted to kind of know like your family structure, and also I wanted to ask, like, when did you become, or when did you feel politics in your life? Like, when did you? But just first on the family.
So look, I grew up with a father and a mother. So my upbringing as a kid was, I think it was fine. My father was a church preacher, and I think I've learned a lot from him in terms of, especially, you see, back then I used to sit down and watch my father sitting with other pastors, preparing for churches, on how will they conduct themselves and so on and so forth. And one thing that I've learned in the process is that they used to debate and discuss in terms of what does the scripture say, what is the correct things. So sitting there, I'm starting to realize at this point, if you look at politics and you look at life in general, it's about the battle of ideas. How do you unpack, what do you mean, and how do you better clarify and articulate yourself, So I think that was very helpful for me. And obviously, I think my father passed away when I was like 15, 16.
Sure.
So he committed suicide. But by then, at that point, I think I've spent enough time from him to learn from him, how to be a man, how to how to model. I think I've modeled him a lot in terms of how to engage yourself as a young man in South Africa. So yeah, that is my upbringing. I have my brother, little brother, older brother, and a older sister. I have 3 sisters, in fact. Two sisters are older than me. One is younger than me. So all my life I spent in Crossroad. I'm in Nyanga. So
tell us about Nyanga, because everyone sees that Nyanga. They hear the headline. Back. Maybe it's gotten a little bit better now.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So I can't say it. Look, if I say it's gone a little bit better now, obviously from people who stay in Nyanga will have a backlash, because to them it's the same, So, ever since growing up in Nyanga, I've seen Nyanga as a community, a community of friends, a community of neighbors, peers, classmates, and so on and so forth. So, yes, of course, because Nyanga has a stigma of being the murder capital, of South Africa and so on. And obviously, the first time I saw a dead body was when I was going to school. I think I was around 13 years old, I was walking to school, and there was this older boys behind me who were walking, they were speaking, walking, interacting, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. And I saw one guy coming, and this guy is like walking near the bushes, and I could see like he's carrying something, and he's walking slowly, As he approached, he started firing shots. And people were running away. It was early in the morning. I think it was around 6:30 to 7, I was going to catch a bus to school, to Athlone. And after those gunshots, I started looking back, and all those boys who were walking behind me have scattered around. But one of them was dead down on the floor. As you can see blood, you can see. And the sad thing about that, I had to go to school, with that trauma,
Like it's a normal day.
Yeah, like it's my normal day, And if I'm not functioning well at school, my teachers won't understand, that I'm not functioning well because of something that has happened and is affecting me mentally. This is the things that many young people face in the township, seeing dead bodies, and it's becoming a norm, and those things unfortunately affects us in different ways. You wonder why some folks are on drugs, smoking drugs, they're drug addicts and so on and so forth. We can blame them sometimes, but at some point we need to look at society, and look at and one of the things that I've learned at UCT, Michael, as a social scientist now, I've started to learn that communities operate as a system. There's this thing we call the ecological system, whereby different combinations of things that are happening within the community influence how a person thinks, how they behave, and how they do things. And now I started to realize and understand and comprehend why some of the things that are happening in society are happening. So yeah, in short, I would say that my upbringing in Nyanga, of course, it was traumatic, but at the same time, it was beautiful because I've learned how to adapt, how to survive, how to maneuver the world, how to, even at a psychological perspective, how to understand people's behavior, how they think and how they do things, and most importantly, I think I was blessed to grow up in a township like that, because the world is pretty messed up, Now I'm at UCT, and the programs that I go to with confidence. I'm scared of nothing, Nothing can deter me, So it has given me a lot of confidence and a thick skin, I would say.
Yeah. So just explain to me kind of like in the township that you've grown up in, is there like, so when you go to the teachers, the parents in your life when you were growing up, did they have empathy for the
situation, the concern?
Yes, yeah. Because we have a lot of kids that I feel that need to actually be heard, and that's why they don't. That's why they turn to kind of negative things in society because of that they're just, as you said, these traumatic things happening around you.
Yeah.
But nobody gives you counsel. Nobody
there's
gives
no
you
counseling,
therapy.
social work, and so on. Yeah. So, look, obviously, in my story, there was never some sort of intervention that came from school. You know, and one of the things if you look at our school system right now is that there's a lot of overwork, a lot of workload, you know, and sometimes teachers are not keen to focus on your social issues and so on and so forth. They're just there to teach, you know, and obviously they are facing their own issues. So that's why I think it is absolutely fundamental for our government to consider ensuring that there are some more social workers, you know, more social workers, psychologists in these local schools, so that they can able to help these young students be able, because part of the problem in terms of our students ensuring that they pass their grades includes how they are functioning, how they are mentally. If they're not functioning well mentally, obviously they won't perform well in their academics. You know, so it's an issue that is absolutely important for the education department as well, because they want their students to pass. You know, and you won't have students who are passing their grades if they are not mentally stable.
Yes.
So I think one of the things that needs to be considered is the exploration of equipping some teachers within the school to have certain techniques or skills that can be able to be utilized by the teachers as well. And because if a teacher identifies someone in the class, they can be able to refer them or assist them. Yeah. So I don't have any story of some sort of intervention. I will be lying to you where there was intervention. And one of the things, Mike, is that sometimes young kids don't even report these things.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that they don't report it because they lack communication, because sometimes they know that maybe they've reported it in the past and they've never been solved, you know. And it's the acceptance of the challenges that young folks are facing, and you know, it's complex, man. You know, it's hard to articulate it.
Yeah, man. I wanted to ask you about your schooling and the story behind that, because obviously, you know, I know that you didn't pass matric in your, you know, at 18, like a lot of other people, but you went on to finish it, you know, and you still had the because a lot of people in our society don't go back. They choose to never further themselves, and a lot of those people aren't able to then climb the social ladder.
Sure.
So could you explain to me how you ended up not finishing, and then okay, I don't want to just fast forward to when you finish, but first give us. Look,
I think education is a journey. That's something that is very fundamental at the core. I think education is a journey. No one in the world can say that they are done getting knowledge. Knowledge is a process. It's a long process, you know. So for me, I think it goes back to resilience, you know. So we are not the same, Mike. Our environment, our households, our communities, you know, are not the same. So life will be faster for you, and it will be slower for someone. Yeah. Or sometimes we might do things differently, you know. So one of the things for me, out of my educational journey, I would say is that it took a while, you know, but I do not regret that, because in the process of the delay, I've learned so many other things that I was not going to be going to learn at school. You know, I've learned things that took me to Brazil. You know, I've learned things that made me attain skills that if I followed on the education trajectory, you know, if it was not delayed, I would not going to be able to attain those skills. You know, so I was able to gain a lot of experience. So in this particular point, what I would say and emphasize to folks who are listening is that education is a long journey. It's a journey, and anyone who tells you that there's a time where you just stop learning, they are lying to you. I don't care who they are.
But can you give us the intricate details of how you chose not to, or you chose to stop, or the environment chose to stop?
So one of the things that concerned me a lot, and this is something that is happening right now in South Africa. So there's this term, I forgot this term now, like household young breadwinner, something like that. I forgot this term. So,
basically kids who have to make food, make
child-headed households.
Yes,
that's the term.
Yeah.
So there's a time where you have to decide going to school or getting a job, and it's either you decide that getting a job, or if you don't do that, you end up doing things that will make you get money. So for me, that was the situation. I worked a lot. I've worked at Red Talk Spare. I've worked at McDonald's. I've worked in several areas. And the pause for me was for me to ensure, since my father has passed away, to ensure that now I live with siblings and I need to provide for them, And there's no electricity, there's no food on the table, how do I go to school hungry? And one of the things that is very important, when you go to school, when you're from the township and you go to school in other areas such as Athlone, town, and so on and so forth, there's transportation involved, and if there's no one to provide for you for food on this, the fridge is empty, you won't even afford transportation to go to school. So the pause for me was focusing on working, getting a job, a part-time job, a full-time job, and ensuring that I get access, the resources and the funds so that I can put food on the table. That was the key point for me. But in the process of that, then I ended up in Zolani Center, which is something I think you want to speak about.
Yeah, man. So I just want to talk to you also about, because you said that your father committed suicide, and that's all the people that I've talked to who've had that experience of a parent doing that. They hate their fathers for it almost. They think that their fathers were kind of like weak people that weren't courageous enough to fight for them.
Yeah.
What's kind of like your view on your father, and how do you feel about suicide? Because I don't know if you saw my Facebook statuses. I talked about how Southern Africa has the worst suicide rates of the world, not just Africa, but the whole world. So could you talk to us just a bit about...
When I was younger, of course I was angry, and I think those folks who are angry at their parents, they have to be understood, and I understand them. But now growing up, I'm no longer angry. There's this term in sociology called sociological imagination, and it simply means that if you use your sociological imagination, you understand that what you are facing, Michael, as an individual is not an individual issue. For example, if you're unemployed, you would think that your life is bad for you, and so on and so forth. But if you look at your neighbor and other younger people at your age, you start to realize that more of them are also unemployed. Yes. So it's a societal issue. It's not your individual issue. So once you do that, you start to realize that the actions that are taken by people are influenced by certain issues that are facing them in their society. And the issue of mental health right now for young folks, the Eurocentric perspective that males needs to provide, you don't need to cry, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. I think that is another issue that needs to be considered. So for me, I'm considering things so I'm using the lens of an academic now, So using the lens of an academic, I don't blame my father, because I know that he committed suicide. But as you've said, that many people are committing suicide. So there were certain issues that put him in a situation where he committed suicide, So I understand understanding, so I'm not angry at all. And I think at the same time, me being alone, is in a place where it's a child-headed household, and I was forced in a situation to grow, forced in a situation to be a man, to be a leader, And that's why people talk about leadership, blah 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 blah. I learned leadership at home, leading your parents, leading your brother and your sister, not parents. That's where leadership needs to start. People are going around blah blah blah. They can't even lead their household. So that's where for me the concept of leadership started. How do I ensure that I put food on the table as a kid? How do I ensure that I influence my brother to know not to go to gangsterism? How do I ensure that as a kid? Because even communities and township can be very isolated. You think that you are in a community, but people are doing their own things, bruh. People are doing that. They're minding their own business. You can suffer literally, in front of the entire community. So for me, I think that has helped me a lot in terms of my leadership journey, to know how to lead my parents, how to lead myself, not my parents, how to lead my brothers and sisters, my siblings, and how to lead myself in a difficult situation. I don't have any anger towards my father.
And does your mother have any? Did she have any? And did that have any impact on you? Because I know sometimes our mothers are like not vengeful. What's the right word? They have a thing of our father's deepest problems.
Yeah. So look, honestly, I cannot at this point. So I think it's something that I've not looked at, But I think my mother managed to stand firm, and continue to play a role as a mother, which she did successfully. So she managed. She was able to cope. Let me put this way: that it was a crisis. When something incident like that, we call it a crisis.
Yeah.
So within that crisis, she managed to ensure, regardless how she feels, her emotions and so on and so forth, she managed to ensure that she played her role as a mother, without being leading to being alcoholic, being rude and abusive and so on and so forth. She continued to function well. She, in terms of role functioning, she managed to ensure that her role as a mother is fulfilled successfully. And looking at her today as we speak, I don't see any anger, any anger or anything, Probably she's proud that her son, is taking up the leadership,
No, that's great, man. I think the first time I met you, I didn't know that you were going to be part of the Democratic Alliance Youth. At that time, I don't think you were part of it. And you were doing, you were hosting sessions in Solani Center in Nyanga.
Yeah.
For a lot of youth who were very interested in music, rappers, singers. Can you just explain kind of that program?
Yeah.
Because I only saw the rap side. And,
So Nyanga Yethu is a comprehensive program. So one of the things that was discovered that caused Nyanga to be the murder capital was that some of those murders were happening during weekends. So, and some of the government programs and civil society programs start on a Monday to Friday, and they conclude so Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. But during the weekends, nothing's happening. So there was a gap during the weekend. Started from Thursday upward, there was a gap of programs that were lacking for young people. So currently, right now, I'm in talks, by the way, with Buffalo City, Office of the Mayor in Eastern Cape, where they want. We're discussing a way I can share the concept of Nyanga Yethu in the Eastern Cape, because if you recall that 21 young people, 24 young people died there in a ship-in. So the concept was to not only give young people space, but to find a way to divert young people away from ship-ins. Yeah. So that is the main concept. People are saying hip hop, blah, blah, blah. It's not the main. It's not the main thing. The main thing is to get young people out of the streets. So we had different programs. We had at some point we had yoga, we had basketball. So one of the key things that we realized in terms of the Nyanga project was that young people are diverse. They love different things. Some love hip hop, some love dancing, some love yoga, some love street soccer, and so on and so forth. So we came up with an integrated approach in terms of a program. So that was the main thing of Nyanga, to have an integrated approach that can accommodate all young people. There was a point where we hosted a ECD, early childhood program, where we hosted movies for young people, not young people, like for kids, because as I told you before, that as a kid, it's easy to see dead bodies on the streets, get caught in a crossfire. So it was a space to take away young people who are roaming around the streets to watch movies in a safe space and so on and so forth. So the program of Nyanga Yethu in Zolani Center was not just particularly for hip hop, but hip hop and the open mic shows were the most successful ones, and they had more attendance, if I may say. So yeah, so it was a program that was designed to accommodate everyone within the space of Nyanga. And not in the space of Nyanga. We had people coming from Khayelitsha, Pal. We even had I forgot this name of this guy now. From Gauteng coming in. Zulu Boy was there even before he boomed. He was there in Zolani Center. There were artists who came there, bruh. Some of the artists who are dope now are coming from that space. We had DJ Easy-E there, DJ Ready D there, Youngster CPT there, so it was a space that has groomed many artists, many talents in terms of art. It was something that was very...
What does the name mean? It means our Nyanga. Yeah. And what does Nyanga mean?
So Nyanga means moon.
Okay.
So Langa means sun.
Yeah.
The township of Langa was the first township in Cape Town. So Langa means the sun, Nyanga means the moon. So it means like our Nyanga. So we wanted to encourage a sense of ownership. People should own their township. Yeah.
So when did you have the idea for the whole project? When did it?
So.
And what were the first steps to make it a fully fledged event?
I never even thought of that. My first involvement in terms of youth programs, there was a time where there were gangs called Vuras and Vatus in Nyanga during 2013, 2014. That's where the murder capital of Nyanga went high. Boom. It skyrocketed because there was a gang violence that was happening. And during that time, no one was intervening. People were scared and so on and so forth. So we started to do gang intervention, gang mediation. That's where I went to Brazil to learn more about. So we did gang intervention, mediation in terms of these young people because they were killing themselves brutally. There was a story of a young girl holding her younger brother. I think the girl was like 10. The brother was like, I think 14, 15, holding her brother on her arms, crying. He's dead. He's dead. His guts are out. He's like brutally dead, bruh. That my little brother came home and he was traumatic, was scared, and so on and so forth. And I started to realize people are scared. No one is intervening, bruh. People are scared. These kids will kill you inside your house, inside your mom, bruh. There's nothing she or your father can do. Nothing. Your community members can do nothing. They'll brutally kill you. I started to realize, there's something can be done, so engage young folks. I'm like, this is your brother who's involved, let's get involved, I started to get the brothers of these kids, some people involved, so we started to gang mediation and we did a conflict resolution to resolve this gang violence that was happening in Nyanga. That's where I met Dan Platt. He was the Minister of Community Safety at that time. So he was there, and that's where my relationship with Dan Platt started to build up, because it was in the safest place environment. I was in the environment as well. Then that's where the idea of saying that, what now? We've stopped these kings. They are no longer fighting. What now? So that's where the integration. So Nyanga Yethu was a concept. Well, it was first a government project.
Yeah.
So it was the Western Cape government project at first. So even though we came about with the themes, the names, and so on and so forth, all the ideas, the concept. So it was like functioning like under the government, and I have two appreciate Helen Zille for that initiative, because this program was under the Alcohol Harm Reduction Game Changer, which was under her when she was the Premier of the Western Cape. So Nyanga Yethu, in essence, is like her baby, in a way. So yeah, that's how it started. So and it grew after that, and we had to help VPU replicate it in Kailicha, in Harare, and help them as well, give them ideas to replicate it in Pal East.
So, how did you go from first, did you do any other notable projects that you can tell us about? Because I obviously only know you from the musical one.
Yeah, so in the process of that, some of government officials from the city requested us to intervene in a school called Oscar Mbethe High School. There's a school in Nyanga called Oscar Mbethe High School. It's a high school, and there was gang violence that was happening there. So that is one of the most successful projects that I was involved in. So we managed to reduce gang incidents in that school significantly, that the Minister of Education said to me, Zooks, can you please help us replicate this program in Hanover Park, because it's working. The principal was writing recommendation left, right, and center, because we've managed to solve it. One of the beautiful thing about working with young people, there was a time in the school where there's a feeding scheme. So in the feeding scheme, there was people are fighting over food. People is hit by hot food on their face. And the smaller guys, they stand in the line. When they arrive, all of a sudden there's no food, because the bigger ones are taking off the food. So what we did in the school, for example, we said, look, we said to students, this is your school. You know it better than us. So we just influenced students to come up with a team. They call themselves the Student Safety Hub. They came up with ideas to solve their own issues within the school. So we worked with UWC, the University of the University of the Western Cape, in that intervention. So we've managed to come with a solution that one day the principal of the school came out and they were looking, because the feeding scheme, it was no longer chaos. People were in a line, bruh. Discipline, and that discipline enabled other young people who are not getting the food, who are hungry, who were small, who were bullied, be able to get the food. So that is one of the interventions that I'm happy about. This is something that I'm considering to do next year.
Yeah,
there's a program that I want to do next year with UCT, with other departments, to focus on the issue of school safety as well. So there. Look, Michael, if I would talk about the projects and the program that I was involved in, we can talk until tomorrow, bro. I don't want to lie to you.
What about just one more? I know you did that safety guidelines. Just explain some of the safety guidelines, and maybe a few that people should know. Yeah. So the anti-mugging safety guidelines. So one of the things that is a problem in terms, people are getting robbed a lot, and people are doing people are doing things that are making them targets and victims of robbery. Yeah. So one of the simple things that I can advise to people is that keep your valuables out of sight. If you are wearing a jean and you are walking in front of me, and your phone is drawn, everybody can see your phone on your pocket. Even though I have like a 10,000 rand, in my bag, and no one can see it, thieves won't come to me, gangs won't come to me, they'll come to you directly and rob you, And this is evidence-based. This is something, the guideline is based on evidence-based. Something is done in the world, New York, Colombia, Mexico, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that is very important that works is people should walk with confidence. Even if you lost, walk like you own the space. Walk like you are in. So you can go. You can take me to Kailicha, Michael, maybe, or any place in where I've never been. It's my first time, But I'll walk as if I belong there. I won't act lost and so on and so forth. Once you walk with confidence, people start to question themselves. Damn, what's going on? Is he from here? Is he confident? Does he have a gun or does he have something? Damn, let's not go there. That's something that works. Working with confidence signals to the robbers that you are not lost. You know where you're going. You don't need help for directions.
and it makes them hesitate to approach you. So the anti-mugging guidelines were done in collaboration with the City of Cape Town, the Office of JP Smith, and with the Director of Research in the Department of Community Safety. So, but it's an initiative, and it was surprising for me that there's no such thing in South Africa. Such thing that can advise and guide pedestrians or citizens on how they can avoid being victims of robbery or muggings. So, yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you about the general, before we get to how you started in politics. What is kind of your first political awakening, and also can you tell us about the landscape of the local politics of Nyanga?
Look, in terms of politics, I won't say there was such time where I was like, whoa, I've seen politics, blah 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 blah, and so on and so forth. I think the only thing that made me angry, pissed off, in fact, was when I started to attend meetings. When I was running Nyanga, I started to attend stakeholder meetings with government departments and other organizations, and I was like only young person in the room.
Yeah.
So one thing that I realized is that people started to treat me badly because I was young. They didn't want to listen to my views and so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. And that's where I started to realize that I need to stand up for myself, and standing up for yourself means that when you go to such meetings, you are able to research, come up with better arguments so that you can articulate them. And that is something that is very important in politics, articulating your message. Yeah. So, but one thing that made me really, really interested in politics, honestly, is that I wanted to understand how government works, how government function. Because one of the things that is problematic now, if you get wrong people into government, then the mission of entertainment, the mission of art will not be supported. If you get wrong people who don't understand the situation of local townships. So my role or my involvement in politics was in a way to find a way to influence policy, so that there could be better policy that can be able to get artists, people who are involved in activism, and influence some of the issues that are facing
your local community.
Exactly.
So how can you tell me a bit about Nyanga? So about the political landscape there, and when you obviously, I know you can tell us, I only know you from the DA. So is there any before that politics? Were you part of were you part of any other organizations? And also, what were your kind of
Look, I was not part of any organization, but of course, the only thing I did once was because I was involved in artists and so on and so forth. Before I was involved, so there was a local ward councillor who I think was shot last year in October. Yeah. So she really liked me, and I was very close with her. Even though I was not necessarily ANC and so on, So when sometimes she wants to pay artists, she has programs that she's doing. I used to assist, for example, get artists there so that they can get a gig and so on and so forth. So I was just involved in an ad hoc basis in politics to just assist young people to get gigs to perform.
Yeah.
But there was a time where I was, we were invited in a constituency meeting of the ANC in the constituency by one of the leaders. And there was a discussion, but I could tell that it was a recruitment process or recruitment strategy. But at that time, I was not involved, I was not interested in politics at all. It was not because I was against ANC policy, blah, blah. At that time, I knew nothing about policy, knew nothing about politics and so on and so forth. So I started to get involved in politics with the DA.
And how did you get involved, and when did you start really getting involved?
So, because I was already close with Dan Plato, who at that time managed the Department of Community Safety was supporting Nyanga Yethu. So I knew Dan Plateau there, and when I started to realize, he's also part of the DA, So I liked him, So I thought that if this guy is a good guy, probably this political party is a good political party.
Yeah.
So that's where I started to get involved. I got involved in my constituency as a youth rep. Then is in charge of the youth in the constituency. Then I'm actually the first person in the history of the DA to get elected in a democratic process in the DA youth structure. Before that it was appointment. And there were no congresses or anything. It was the first in history.
Are you talking about your metro?
Yeah, I'm talking the Metro Congress, yeah.
Explain that. You must give us the explanation, man.
So
for the people who...
Yeah. So after being involved in the DA, of course, there was a process where the party wanted to restructure and ensure that they have proper functioning youth structures.
Yeah.
Because before there was just a process in the DA of people being appointed, help assist there, blah, 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 blah. So we wanted to have our first democratic Congress, where we have delegates, or to get young people to practice their democratic right to vote for their relevant leaders. So at that time, I was not interested to lead the DA youth in the Cape Metro. Actually, Luando from Kailichi was like a staff member of the DA, was interested to lead the DA. And there were a couple of other people, So, but I was approached, I can't remember who approached me, and said, look, no, it was Sean August, who's working for Good now, Yeah. So Sean August was saying like, look, there's no one else, you get the job done, and more people are saying that, look, you've raised the bar, you think you should contest, but Luando wanted to contest, so I had to sit down with Luando. So we had a meeting in Lower Cross Road, and with other folks, and we discussed. And because I was saying, if Luando is contesting, I'm not going to get involved because to give him the opportunity. But most of the people said to him, look, this is the right guy, and I had the experience outside of politics. So this is what young people want. Not chit-chat, yep, people who are talking a lot and no work. People who are already showing or exhibit experience of caring, of how to run an organization, how to fundraise, how to look for resources, how to plan, implement, and so on and so forth. So I had that experience, So I think this is one of the biggest problems now in politics. People are just coming in politics and without any experience of doing anything. And that's why most of these youth structures, sometimes they are having a challenge. So after that, I went to a congress. Mikhail was actually contesting me. Mikhail Manuel was contesting me for the position of chairperson, and I forgot someone else who was contesting me. So my campaign was successful. Carl Popper was running my campaign in Zahid Badruddin. And I think Yongama Plachi, yeah. So yeah.
And then you won that you won that contestation, and what kind of, because I know like in a lot of townships when you mention the DA,
you're
like you
sell out
DA. Really?
Sell out.
you want apartheid again. You're a proper sellout,
dude. I'm telling you, when my face was on the DA poster, I was literally called by several people, insulted on Facebook. People like people literally think that you are possessed or something. What is going on? No, there's a spell. Something something is wrong. People think that something is wrong, literally.
Yeah.
And one of the things that probably it is not synced here in South Africa. So people start to realize that what we were celebrating in 1994 was the choice to choose which political party you want.
Yes.
You know, the choice. We were celebrating a choice that we were given a choice to choose between A and B. Yeah. You know, and now once we start to choose between A and B, people don't understand. You know, it's like they don't link the democracy that was fought for, that we received, to choosing any political party that you want.
Yeah.
I think it's a lack of political education. You know, so but again, I think this comes back to the issue of growing up in the township after 1994. You don't care what people think. You know, if you have a plan and a mission, this is what you do. Look at young people, how they walk nowadays, bro. How we walk, how we do things. We don't care what people say. You know, when I was involved with helping young people in my hood, that people were telling me that my mom is telling me to have these friends, but I'm not going to do that. I want these friends. You know, people have red hair now. You know, they are flexy, how they dress, how they walk. People are more liberal. You know, in their outlook. You know, they don't want to be told what to do. You know, they want to think for themselves and be independent in terms of thinking. So it was a backlash, but I knew the vision. But I'm telling you right now, most of the people who are having backlash, they're shaking my hand. You know, they're like, "Look, you took the right decision." And some of them, of course, are not saying that. But again, I think it doesn't matter which political party you belong to. I think it is the character of the person.
Yes.
You know. And apart from the character of the person, it is mostly about, do you deliver on the things you promise to deliver?
Yes. What do you think about this idea that I don't know, it's just like that I've picked up that people assume because you're black you have to think a certain way. And basically, as you're saying, people have become more liberal, or there's kind of like a thing where if you skate on a skateboard in the hood, you're known as a white person, or you're not really like, you're not
coconut,
and the basically the othering of black people, you know, even though we understand that sometimes those people who are called coconuts sometimes can be far removed from the struggle of most black people in South Africa. So what's your kind of like take on the whole thing?
I think for me it is, in any situation, if it's something is rare, people are like, oh, what's going on? Oh no, if you see someone with the skateboard, it's rare, like what's going on? You know. But I think now our townships, I think anyone who joins the DA, for example, in the next 5 years in the township, I think the level of stigma will be very, very low.
Yes.
You know, so because I think the more as we grow as a society, because remember our democracy is new.
Yeah.
You know, the more we grow as communities, we better. Because even back then, when there was Mzege, he was making fun of hip hop. People never thought that we were going to have the hip hop that we have now in South Africa. You know, it was quite too. There was hip hop was like, you know, but look at hip hop now. It's on another level. So what I'm saying is that the adaptation and learning new things as a society, it is in any environment, something new. If something is new, people are scared of something new. You know, they don't wanna they oppress it. You know, they call it names. You know, and so on and so forth. So I think it is a process of us as society and as communities in South Africa. It's a process of growing. You know, we start to understand things, bruh. People were made fun of if you would come off wearing things of the US. You know, people would make fun of you. What's going on? You know, why are you wearing like this? It was a problem back then, but now it's culture. You know,
you hear the young people talking.
You know,
the accents.
You know, the accents. You know, the accent is changing now. You know, so every society it's a revolution, but society is changing. Society is changing on a constant basis. So, I think it is something for me that it is something that we need to understand, but at the same time, something that we need to know that society changes. You know, and if the change is needed, then so be it.
What do you think? So there's kind of a line of thought about being African and kind of their traditions and thought patterns of Europe and the Western world are being forced upon Africans, and Africans are losing their culture. Do you think that's all true at all true, or do you think?
So I think also as an academic, there's always two different points. People who are saying it's true, they'll come up with their evidence, and people who are saying that it's not true, they'll also come up with their evidence. So if you weigh it, it depends who's saying it sometimes. So at this point, obviously, there is in a way that because of colonization, it happened. People were colonized. South Africa was colonized, and in the process, there were certain cultures, habits and things that were enforced on society in Africa in general. And of course, I think in the process, we've managed to learn those things, and we are replicating those things now. And it was very interesting. We were discussing about something at UCT, and someone said to me, do you know that for example, when you speak in Xhosa, when you say she or he, those pronouns in English. If you're saying to someone who's a girl, who's a unati, or if you're saying to a male, uban, those way. So there's no ba. He or she, So people there's an argument that even those pronouns of hierarchy and so on and so forth is coming from the West, So in the academic world, there's a lot of debate around that, and I think we'll take forever discussing that. So I think in some sense there is a perception and facts in terms of because colonization did happen. So there are many cultures and habits and things that have been enforced or influenced into the African continent.
What do you think? Because my take, because I wanted to ask you about what you think of rainbow nationism, and like just in general, what Madiba's, Nelson Mandela's version of where he saw South Africa. But I kind of also wanted to ask you, what do you think about this idea that a lot of the time in Cape Town, this is like just the race section of the interview. We're just talking about race issues. We have to. So what do you think about the idea that to fit in with white people, you have to act like them? And whiteness, once you, because it's a concept there by UCT after the feast must fall movement. They call UCT the ivory towers, and there was this kind of thought pattern that whiteness wants to turn people who go to these universities who are from other areas. They want to, and even just going to Cape Town or whatever, you have to be like white people to fit in. Whereas it's not the same with the other way. White people aren't made to fit in with black people in the same way.
Yeah.
And have you had any experience with that, being in the DA and being from Nyanga?
Look, honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's because people are built differently. I've never been in any situation whereby I was forced to act as a white person. But of course, maybe watching movies and so on and so forth, movies of white heroes and so on and so forth, people who are white are heroes, then people then can adapt those attitudes from television. Because even television has been shown that it is very influential, because there was a study that showed that you can link the violence movies that are happening on TV to the gang violence. Young kids are watching that and they replicate it and imitate it on the streets. So even if you see a white person there, white hero, how they behave and so on and so forth, so those traits of that white hero in TV, then young kids can also replicate it. Young black kids can also replicate it in a way. So look, I don't know if I have any comment on that, bro. I'm not a race theorist specialist, but I think that For me, I was not forced in any way in the DA to act like a white person. I think because of diversity, I was given a space to be myself.
Yeah.
And that UCT, look, this is my experience. Obviously, I don't see black folks forced or influenced to be white people at UCT. If someone says that, they must bring facts, because there are so many people who are coming with this assumption without facts. But what I'm seeing at UCT is a lot of confidence from among black people of South Africa.
Yeah.
There's confidence in lecture theaters, in the school halls, how they walk, I think there's a sense of ownership of UCT.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are those who are not feeling that. So in any aspect of thing, there's a diversity of perception.
Yeah.
It's not one thing, then it's facts.
Yeah.
So for me, but I think one of the issue I think that I've seen is that most of the black people who are studying there, they're coming from Xhosa speaking schools.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're majority or not. So you can imagine if you're coming from a place where you speak Xhosa, or you are speaking Zulu or Sesotho, your high school was speaking those kind of languages, not English, any kind of language, not English. So obviously when you go to a university that speak English, everything's been taught in English, and then it will be uncomfortable for you for some time, I think there was one of the professors who wrote something about this, not a professor, I think a staff member on Facebook. So obviously it's going to be uncomfortable, for you compared to someone who was coming from high school that was English speaking.
Yeah.
Those people can easily adjust in that environment. The teacher speaks English, everything's been taught in English. They are used to that. But if you used to learn in Sesotho, in Zulu, Setswana, it's going to be difficult for you to adjust in that environment, and you can feel oppressed or feel that this is not a space for you. But if look at this point, I wouldn't support that idea. Look, people, when I look at South Africa and the world in general, people have different views, bruh. People can post something on Twitter and they would think that it's the fact. It's absolute fact. You can look at what is happening in the US. People think that the elections were rigged, and they really believe it. It's appalling. They really believe it. So it's difficult to have proper discussions and conversations now, because if I say it's how I see it, even if there's evidence on the table that dispute what I'm saying, people are like, no, I don't care. No, what I'm saying is true.
Yeah.
So that's why I in the conversations that I'm having, I always try to be evidence-based. If you say make your point is fine, but where's the evidence? How do you prove it?
Yeah.
Don't come and play with me and with all those conspiracy theories. Look, it's something that is happening. The world is growing. People are coming up with their own perceptions on how things are. Yeah, and I think that there's always a different perspective on a particular point or topic.
Yeah. What when it comes to what Nelson Mandela kind of proposed of a rainbow nation, and obviously I think we both agree that the ANC has failed in implementing the realization of that project.
Of course.
But do you think that that project is still something to strive for, or do you think that we should be people who care a lot more about our own communities first before seeing outreach with other communities as important?
Yeah. So I think the idea of I think it was Desmond Tutu's idea, the Rainbow Nation. In Mandela, because he was was involved, he was also integrated in that idea.
Yeah.
So, of course, I think one of the things that Nelson Mandela is saying on his book is that he has played his part. I'm not going to be all those folks, Mandela this, blah, 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 blah. And if you look at those folks like Mandela this, blah, 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 you look at what they are doing in their community, contributing nothing in South Africa. The only thing is that they do complain about Mandela. Those people, you can put those people one day in a prison cell. I'm telling you that some of them will cry like babies, but it's our society. People can have their own ideas, they don't realize what other people are facing. They don't care what the other perspective of other people. But for me, I think Mandela was a great man, and I really appreciate his stance in terms of uniting South Africa.
Yeah.
If you look at most of the countries now in Africa, there's there are wars, bruh. And I think that the idea of the Rainbow Nation, it is an idea that each generation must find a way to continue to define, to continue to shape, to continue to build, So I think it's an ongoing process, but it's an idea that I really support. And it's an idea that, and one of the good things about this idea of the Rainbow Nation, I think now we must also look at this idea of the Rainbow Nation not only in terms of color, but look at the idea of the Rainbow Nation in terms of the difference of ideas, the difference of perspective. How do we embrace our different views, and because if you can see sometimes on Facebook, in social media elsewhere, there's this issue of tribalism.
Yeah.
So if we start to reshape and redefine the issue of the Rainbow Nation, then we'll understand that not only because of we need to work together in terms of race, but in terms of ideas,
I think even
cultures and so on and so forth, disabilities and so on and so forth. So I think every culture and every generation. Every generation needs to continue redefining it, in a way that is inclusive and in a way that is productive for the country.
Yeah. What's your I know that you have a love for Barack Obama.
My man.
What's funny? My girlfriend loves Michelle and Barack Obama. And Barack Obama obviously was a great moment for America.
Yeah, and for the world.
But what's the right word? What followed him was probably the opposite of what he was a let's bring everyone together. Let's bring even the ones that we dislike to the table, try and negotiate with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel that he didn't really he didn't win at that.
Yeah,
some of the Republicans tried by all means to stop even the most balanced piece of legislation. So what started your, I was gonna say romance, but
nah, man.
but your like for Barack Obama.
So, I think, most of us here in South Africa, we grew up watching television.
Yeah.
Stories of the US, those these movies and so on and so forth, what is happening and so on. So in a way we develop some sort of internal relationship in terms of black people in the US, and understanding their struggle and so on and so forth, and start to realize that because the US and South Africa share a common issue of racism issues and so on and so forth, the diversity. So when Barack Obama became the first black president of the US, it was kind of like a reliving Nelson Mandela in a way. Because some of us were too young, we can't comprehend that day of Nelson Mandela, So in a sense, when Barack Obama was elected in the US, then it was that moment for me, if I can say. And so I think that's where I started to follow him, when he was not when he was campaigning, when he got elected, and of course, I think in the system of politics, it's not easy to achieve certain things.
Yeah.
And as you've said, I think one of the things that there are many criticisms of Obama, by the way, and from black people in the US, so because people have different perspective and different views on how things should be done. So I think Barack Obama made a very significant thing, because there are some people who are saying that now is going to only look out for black people and so on and so forth. I think in his speech where he said that he is the president of the United States of America, he was trying to say that he's the president of all
people,
all people within the US, and I think that after that, having a black president, maybe some white folks in the US never liked that. They felt that the country is going the wrong direction, hence the rise of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it's if you are not looking as a young Democrat as a country, if you're not looking at the issue that is happening in the US and start to be concerned, we're gonna fall in the same trap. We're young democracy. The US is like old democracy, but look at them right now, bro.
Yeah.
Look at what is happening right now, bro. Just a small light, there could be a civil war. The things that are happening, they are on another level. And if politicians and leaders here in South Africa do not look at what is happening and find ways to prevent a similar situation in South Africa, then we are doomed. I think we should learn from the challenges of what is happening in the US, especially when it comes to politics and elections, and find a way to ensure that we prevent election riggings, find a way to prevent these people who are inciting violence and so on and so forth. So, I think it's something that we need to monitor as a country and find ways to ensure that we prevent. And I'm hoping the IEC is looking at those things, so that when we go to the election 2024, we avoid the outrage and the issues that the US is facing.
Yeah. So, well, when it comes to Obama, I think there's this kind of view that Obama was someone who was bought by corporations and everything. And I mean, as you said, there's so much that people dislike.
People are saying Mandela is a sellout. You can walk on water. People will say, nah, he's walking on water because he can't fly. I think you know that term. Bruh. So you must start to realize that no matter how great you are, the world is big and the world has so much beautiful, diverse people. There will be those who will be against you, no matter how good you are. So people must learn to live with that. So of course, when people say that the accusation against Obama and so on, it's.
But basically, what I wanted to say was that what was interesting in the US, I thought something that was, and it goes to show you how politically polarizing the US is that Obamacare and what was its actual name? It was the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah.
Those two, it was like 70%. I actually can't remember the numbers, but it was around 60% approved of the Affordable Care Act. And then 40 or whatever percent approved of Obamacare. But they were the same thing.
Look, I think
is that brainwashing? When do we get to a stage where, and I'm a bit like left wing. I'll just say that they must stop funding the corporations. They're letting the corporations and individuals fund these politicians because why are they allowed to just destroy a good program's name and Obama?
Yeah.
I mean, saying he was a Muslim. What else did they say? They said so many things.
They were saying that is actually Osama bin Laden, but in disguise. There are many things that they were saying about him. And then some people are saying that he must go back to Africa.
Yeah, and then the left wing was attacking him because of
aggressive enough.
because they say he didn't go far, like further enough.
Yeah.
What I liked about him was his honesty on the issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I supported all his things.
Yeah.
But obviously the for me the issue was, and I don't know, the thing is like, and maybe we can talk about it because we know a lot of DA people, is that you're an activist outside, but you are inside, you're a different person.
Yeah.
Where it's harder for you to implement what society wants you to do now. And you say to society, it can't be done.
Yeah.
You know, there are these certain things that are stopping certain things. I'm speaking very abstract. I don't want to ruin our careers.
Don't do that. You're still young, bro. Don't do that.
But this thing of incumbency, you know, do you think that there's any kind of like truth to it's easier to be an opposition than to be an incumbent and actually change people's lives?
Look, I think
because you've changed people's lives through your work, and you didn't even need the government.
I didn't even need politics, bro.
Exactly.
So I think most political parties, I hope that they are going into politics because they have an ideology and a perspective that they want to implement true government to ensure that they achieve the greater good.
Yeah.
You know. So, but I think that I think currently right now I think most political parties in South Africa, they do have a dream to govern one day.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely.
Otherwise, I don't know. I can't comprehend I can't understand if people would. The only way if people would do that if they want to represent minorities, for example.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to govern, but we want to be here in parliament to protect a particular group. You know, we don't want to govern. That's what we want to do. That would be the perspective of other people. But I think most political parties in I think the DA, EFF, and other political parties, I suspect, you know, that they have a dream of one day governing the country, you know. I think even the smaller Nyanga parties, good is not a smaller Nyanga parties. I'm not saying good is a smaller Nyanga parties. I don't want to get. So let me put it this way. I think the other political parties that are having less representation in parliament, I think they also one day dream of growing and governing the country. And the good thing, Mike, is that now there's this issue of coalition. Yeah. So you don't need to be big enough, you know, to govern. You know, you can just integrate and collaborate with other political parties, form a coalition. Then in that forming a coalition, then you can govern. Johannesburg has been governed through a coalition. Tshwane, you know. Yeah. And I think other municipalities in the Western Cape. So I think that the idea now that because through coalition people can govern, I think then it gives a even further strong argument for people to be eager to not be opposition political parties, but to actually govern.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one hard question. Why, only one. Only one. So, and I mean, if you don't answer it the way we think you should, we can always cut it out.
Yeah.
Although we don't like to censor ourselves, but basically, how do you feel about where the DA is going?
Look, I think people might say I'm biased at this point. You know, because I think of some reasons that you know of. I think, honestly speaking, you know, with Helen as part of the leadership, I think the DA is a political party, you know, is going the right direction. Absolutely. I can look anyone in this world in the eye. I don't care who they are, you know. And here's the facts, Michael. Here's the facts. South Africa, Africa, the world, we want people that has a track record of leading big organizations or governments successfully. Helen is a premier of the Western Cape.
Yeah.
Managed to do that.
Yeah.
You know, she was at some point won an award of the mayor of the world. World mayor, I think it was the best mayor in the world, something like that.
Yeah.
Can't remember the year. You know, and it is through her leadership that the Western Cape as a province managed to achieve significant milestones in different aspects of governance. You know, it is under her leadership. Yeah. She has that experience, you know, leading an entire province. You know, and I think that the party right now, the DA right now, under her leadership, I think is definitely going in the right direction. You know, and I think not only this is not only good for the DA, it is good for the country. Yeah. You know, anyone can bring it on if you want to debate that. In the streets, in the shipping, blah 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 blah. I can debate that anywhere. You know, so with arguments, we're not with conspiracy theorists. You know.
You know that's
so. No, I'm just speaking. I feel there's a point that is very important that I need to make.
Yeah.
I don't say this with being biased. Yeah. You know, I'm looking at evidence. You know, I'm looking at what has a person achieved before. Yeah. This is how we need to judge people. What have they achieved before? You know, in terms of that track record. I think her track record as a leader will take the DA into the next level. And secondly, as I've said before, this is a good story for our country.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that sometimes there's a perception of the media, but you have a great perception of Helen Zille because she has had a great relationship with you. And there's this thing where you hear what the media is saying, but you personally know this person like very well, and they've done nothing but help you in your career.
Yeah, and look, I think you know me by now, is that I'm a fighter in all aspects.
You a fighter, bro.
You know, so, and by the way, back then, I used to debate and argue with the status quo of the Western Cape under Helen's leadership. You know, in every boardroom, fighting for young people. I was told that I'm emotional. Some people are saying that I'm rude, blah 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 blah. Because in a meeting, I can express emotions. You know, and sometimes, you know, when you have passion, when you speak with passion, people think that you're aggressive, because some people want people who speak soft and so on and so forth. So I have a track record of fighting status quo. Yeah. You know, so I'm not saying that. I'm speaking in the perception of Helen, of course, one, because of a track record as a leader. And secondly, on my personal experience, how she's treated me as a young black person, as a human being, you know, as an individual. You know, because of that, you know, I respect her as a leader, and I look up to her.
Yeah. No, that's
and I'm not saying that, I'm not dismissing anyone's views. Yeah. You know, people have their own different views and so on and so forth, perspective and so on. I'm saying this is my perspective. Yeah. And if people want to debate it, if they want to argue about it, it's fine.
Yeah, man. We're all free to have our opinions, and obviously we both in the DA, so we agree on a lot of the same principles. And
yeah, dude, I've been rejected a lot, bro. Cast out, bro. Several times, not only in politics, but in many aspects. That's why young people are angry, Michael. We've been sidelined, bro. Who are in prison, young people. You know, unemployment rate, young people.
Yes.
You know, on all aspects of issues, young people have been diminished, derailed. You know, so And I've faced that coming from the township of Nyanga, which is the murder capital. You know, I've faced that in different ways, you know. So I can tell when someone is lying to me, he's been discriminative against me, you know, and so on and so forth, you know. So, and I can tell when someone is genuine. Yeah. You know, in terms of my perspective, in terms of my experience, if they're good or not, you know.
Yeah. No, man. Yeah. You see, I'm trying to ask you my last question.
Yeah.
But you're giving me a lot of like great.
I hope it will be an easy question, right?
No, it'll be an easy.
Because you already asked a difficult one.
That was the most difficult one. So, what? I mean, yeah. What do you want other people to remember your life as?
So I think at this point, I would say to people, they must just watch the space. Because I'm still young and I haven't achieved anything of significance. Yes, of course, there are things that I've done for many people. Yeah. You know, today I was speaking to a young boy who's going to write an NMP test at UCT, who applied there, helping them up with transport money and so on and so forth, even though I don't have any cash, but ensuring that I help him go at UCT so that they can study there next year. Dude, there are many people around South Africa at a micro level who are helping other people, bruh. You know, who are helping, who are really making a change. People who are poor, are suffering, but are able to go to their pocket, go to their hearts, support other people. Yeah. You know, so I think that is something that needs to be noted. And you can go to my hood, talk about me. People will tell you my story. Yeah. You know, I'm confident about that. You know, I hit myself on the chest. So I've played my part, but I'm not done yet. Yeah. And the only thing that I can say to South Africa is that they must just watch the space, you know, because you are leaders and you are growing in the space. You know, Michael, I've been in programs that includes Harvard, you know, and other programs that are big, that are international. You know, so I'm not just bluffing. I know what I'm talking about. So I haven't done anything. So I don't know. I don't have something to say people should remind me of this and that. But what I could say is that people should just watch the space. Look out for the name Zukile Ntentema. And I just made my TV debut, as you know that. Hey. So without politics, you know, so I'm still angry, aggressive, hungry to make change, you know, in this country. And once I get that opportunity to do so, I will do it with the most level of competence, aggression. And yeah, people must just look out for me.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm acting like a hip hop artist now. Look out for me. Blah, blah, blah. You know, this is how we're changing leadership. You know.
Thank you, man. Thank you
so much for the opportunity, bro.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation.